I am so happy we got here because Eagle Harbor Winery is one of my favorite wineries. They do some beautiful stuff.
Well, this is another little diamond in the rough. You drive around on the island and you find these quaint little business parks that have distilleries here, a great winemaker here, and boom, here we are.
I know. I am so excited about tasting some of these wines. Emily! Hey!
Jeff, it's so
How
nice
you
to see
doing? Give me an elbow there. All right. Hugh, good to see you, brother.
How are you?
All right.
Right.
Well, you have a beautiful tasting room here. Absolutely stunning. And
Emily's work.
nice. But I want to see where the magic happens.
Okay, I guess we'll have to go into the back room.
Well, you know, most people see the bottle and they see pictures of all these beautiful barrels, which I can't wait to talk about.
Right.
But they don't realize the precise chemical analysis and the scientific knowledge that goes into making these wines. I think it makes a difference between a good wine and a great wine sometimes. And this is where you do that magic, yes?
Well, we do some of it here. We measure certain characteristics. We do free SO2 and complete SO2. We do malic acid, lactic acid measurements. We do ABV.
Yes.
So we do several things here, obviously pH, but for more complicated things, we send it to the laboratory.
Well, I know this isn't a glamorous, romantic, but it's integral to a good winery. So I wanted our people to get a chance to see it.
Sure.
Now let's go into those beautiful barrel rooms.
Sure.
Emily, when I first came in here, I was blown away by the quality of your barrels. It's the first thing that I noticed. I mean, most people know American oak, which maybe costs $600 for a good barrel. But, well, tell us about these forest designate barrels.
Well, I just found, American oak imparts certain flavors to the wine that were not part of the profile that I appreciated. I
Well, they're
like them.
wider pores, too. They're not as tight as
Correct,
this
they're
would.
not as tight, and they tend to give you characteristics of vanilla and coconut versus the French oak barrels, which tend to offer more spice and they enhance the fruit in different ways. So I really worked hard to find different coopers and different barrels from different forests. I like to use the Trancé forest designates for the Cabs. We use the Juppy designate for the Merlots. I like an IA Vosges combination for my Francs.
See, this is a level that most people never see.
Yeah.
What's unique about these forests, you notice she's referring to a forest. These forests have been hand-grown by French coopers for 400 years. I mean, they plant the trees, they make sure that they grow the way they want them, they pick the prime ones, and they make barrel. This barrel has been babied for at least 40 years, and that's before they even cut it.
Yeah, and it was, so we use 3-year-old wood that's been air-dried, so then the coopers make the barrels to our specs. So we tell them what kind of toast level we want, whether we want the heads toasted, how long it should go, as well as which forest and that sort of thing. So at the beginning of the year, when we're looking at our grapes and what we're going to bring in, we calculate how much production we think we'll have in those, and then what percentage of which forest we need or barrels we need for each varietal.
I didn't even know that American wineries could get some of these barrels. Did you have a hard time?
No, the coopers are pretty willing to sell to you. Some of them are harder than others. There's some that we love that are called Darnajou. I don't know. Darnajou. Those we cannot get.
Oh, that's a Gambia.
We can't get those directly. We bought some from another winery, used a 1-year barrel that had been used one time for wine, and really appreciate those effects.
Nice.
But that's the only one we're not able to get directly. The Berger Fils are a little more expensive, and but they have a really unique process. Okay, I'm going to geek out on you with the barrels.
That's what this show is for.
But the Berger, they have this process where they bake the heads. So instead of taking the head and toasting it, they use a big industrial oven, and it's proprietary, and they bake them, and it gives you different compounds that come out, purines and other. It's really fascinating. We have a couple that we use. The first ones we used are up there, and one is baked heads and one's not. Maybe we'll have a chance to taste the difference.
Oh, twist my arm.
That would be great.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Oh, and in case people don't know, this is the head.
Yeah.
This is the barrel. So it's just this end, but that's still, I imagine, 40% of the wine contact, 30%?
I think they say it's about 30%, yeah, is what you get. So it depends, and you can leave them untoasted or, which is just raw, natural, or toasted, or in this case, baked.
You have a lot of barrels here, and must be quite an investment. How are you doing in these times of pandemic when you can't even go to a restaurant?
Well, fortunately we have a very loyal wine club and a lot of local members and people from Seattle who come out for the weekend and that sort of thing, keeping us going. We did do about 20% less production of grapes this year. We didn't buy as many grapes and didn't produce as much wine by a little bit, just in anticipation, knowing we had these wines. You can see, these are 2019s, these are 2018s. We still have 2017s that we haven't bottled yet. So I tend to age them for 2 to 3 years minimum.
That really makes a difference. It's expensive.
It's downtime, but again, my goal is to craft the best wine that I can, and that's how I found it works best.
Well, you and Hugh just rock that. I love you guys.
Right?
So down here, these silver, they look like fermentation barrels or stabilization still vats.
Some of them have wines, red wines and blends that are ready for bottling. Not quite, they're empty and not ready yet. But when we get ready to bottle, we'll make a blend and put all the barrels together in a larger tank, because that's the only way to hold them. And then we lift the tank up with a forklift and use gravity to fill the filler when we bottle. Currently, some of them, the one with the jacket on it, the blanket that looks like it's wrapped, that has white wine from this past season. So it's got our 2020 Art Sauvignon Blanc in there, it's ready to bottle as soon as we get enough space to do that. The rest of them are dribs and drabs of other things. When you have a barrel, you have to keep it full. And if you have more wine when you're initially barreling down, as they say from fermentation, if you have more wine than they'll fit in all the barrels, but not enough to fill another barrel, we use successively smaller vessels. So we might be able to fill up a keg, we might be able to fill up the carboys, or we use these variable capacity tanks.
Well, and you have to keep, when you have all this investment in these beautiful barrels, you have to keep them topped off. So I imagine you use some of that for topping off.
Absolutely, yeah. We have a topping system here, actually, is what this little unit is.
That wouldn't be argon, would it?
It is. We find using argon for all our operations is really gives us the best end product.
See, I used to think nitrogen was an inert gas, but apparently it's not as inert as argon. So what that means is the gas isn't affecting the flavor or texture of the wine at all. Doesn't add anything, doesn't take anything away. And that's important.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, so we use all those things, and then we work hard to keep our barrels clean. You can see the barrels are, they're an investment, as you said. And
wineries are the cleanest places. Wineries and breweries, and I just love it.
Well, you can't make good wine in a dirty winery.
Thank you, yes. Everyone should listen to that.
So we've got a few of our 2020s in here. They've been racked off and are ready to stay in the cold and start aging.
Nice.
Yeah, we've still got some others.
Well, the reason that she has to keep topping them off, she and Hugh, are that as the wine goes into the wood, it picks up flavors and it comes out. This is reliant to temperature. But also, they used to call this the angel's share, because the distillers mostly would fill up a barrel and they'd come through a year later and there'd be some missing. And like, where did it go? This is in the 1700s, the 1800s, and they didn't realize all the nuances of oak. So they said, well, it's the angel's share. And it's called that to this day.
When you were here last, this was a warm room where we were warming up the wine to undergo secondary fermentation. And since that time, we've moved them into the lab room, and these wines are ready to be wrapped. All right. In other words, we've measured them in several different ways. And for example, for this Cabernet right here, Untitled Cabernet, we've reduced the malic acid to 670 grams per liter. So there's
that's some fine tuning.
Tiny amount of malic acid in there. But we need to rack it off. There's several reasons. One is that as the wine undergoes secondary, and as it cools from initial fermentation, it shrinks. So now we've got headspace. Okay. it's protected. The minute we detect that secondary fermentation is over, what we do is we put in sulfur dioxide. Okay? So we'll put in sulfur dioxide so that we have 0.8 molecular free sulfur dioxide in there to preserve the wine, to protect it, to keep it secure. Takes care of two things, bacteria, and by a roundabout method, it also takes care of oxidation. So Monday is work right here.
Well, and it clarifies too, yes?
Pardon me?
It clarifies the wine too, yes?
It does. That's what we'll do when we rack is we'll leave some sediment. Okay. So at the bottom of these barrels, it depends on which one. If say it's a press barrel, there'll be this much goo on the bottom, quite a bit. Okay. And what we do when we rack is we throw that away.
They gently pour off the clear stuff, leaving the gunk, and then you clean that out.
Exactly. We do leave some of the leaves on the wine. Okay. There's several reasons for that. The wine undergoes another chemical process called autolysis. It increases the complexity of the wine and the richness of it. Right? So our style, Emily's style in the winery, is to produce rich, very complex, and heavyweight wine on the palate. That's what we do at Eagle Harbor, okay? So other people do different things.
It's true. Every winery is different, but
That's right.
I can't wait to taste my way through all your wines that we're going to today. Well, not all of them, but
We'll
anyway.
taste more, yeah.
Yes. And by the way, when he's referring to the lees, there's a technique called surly. Lees are the leftover sediments, but it's also the dead yeast particles. And when you're making, say, Chardonnay and you want a more rich mouthfeel, you'll stir up those lees every day or sometimes twice a day, and it will both clarify the wine by attaching itself to little particles that are still suspended in the wine, and it will also give it a richer mouthfeel. Not everyone does this. But
Well, we stir, but not every day. Not every day. Usually it's called batonage, and we have a device which you stir the wine. And we stir some red wine, actually. Some of this red wine has been stirred. We have a Syrah that is in the room because it's been racked off, but we stir that about once a week. And we have Viognier in this other room, and
your Viognier is legendary.
we stir that about twice a week. So
Nice.
Bringing up those leaves increases the complexity and richness of the wine, and that's what we're aiming at. Right? That's our idea. So we do stir some reds, which is a bit unusual, but we always stir the Viognier, and maybe some. The Viognier is fermented in barrels.
Yes,
But we have Saint-Blanc, it's fermented in steel.
of course.
And we have done some stirring there, but it's not quite as much. Saint-Blanc's a different grade.
All right.
It's a different approach.
Well, I think we might be able to taste some barrels if
We
Emily
can.
was right.
Let's do
Head on over there.
This is a Cabernet, all right? And this one has a baked head.
All right. Thank you. Oh, that color.
The color and the aroma.
Oh, I haven't even gotten there yet.
The aroma went right through my mouth.
Oh my goodness.
I should say that we don't do barrel proof.
I know. Well, we very much appreciate that. I know you don't normally do that. I was rather shameless in suggesting it, but I really wanted to. Oh, my goodness. Guys, this is beautiful, and I haven't even put it in my mouth yet.
When I got this glass, I had my mask on. The aroma, it doesn't hot, exploded, exactly, exploded.
Keep in mind that it's pretty cold wine.
It is pretty cold, yeah.
So what consequence will that have? It suppresses the fruit.
It mutes the fruit.
What it does and brings out a bit more of the oak. But you'll notice that's not really happening all that much. There's good fruit on this wine.
Well, I mean,
Right now.
You get the cedar notes though.
Yeah, you do.
But that'll dissipate. You'll get more as it warms up. It'll fade to the background more.
But that cedar is very pleasant and not harsh.
Now you want to try the one without the,
oh, that would just be
without the
heaven.
Big Ten?
Oh my goodness, twist my arm.
There you go, hold your glass.
These are going to be some subtle nuances. I can't wait
They
to.
are.
Well, that's a different nose.
Same wine,
I know.
made at the same time. Just the barrel.
So this seems to be more delicate in the mid palate, and I don't get quite as much cedar off of this one.
Nose,
Yeah.
So that's the baked heads, and so that's a compound called furine, which is brought out by the baked heads.
Well, I like Furion.
Thanks for this story.
Yeah, so this is rare. This is not something that people touring a winery will get to see.
Should we need more fruit?
Mm-hmm.
Showing.
Bigger fruit.
Yeah, want to try one more in a neutral?
I'm gonna.
Twist your arms.
No. Twist.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and head in. I don't want to open too many barrels.
That's pretty good wine.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
While you open that bottle, where do you folks get your corks?
Well, we get them from Le Fort. Okay, Le Fort is a French company that does several things, provide yeast and chemicals. We've been lucky with them. They're pretty good corks.
Well, those are good corks. I mean, because you don't see many gaps, you don't see much brown, and there's a lot of solid white. That's a nice cork.
High quality corks.
When I first got in the wine business, there were 60,000 new wines coming out each year, and I thought, I'll never learn them all. Well, now there's over a million new wines being released every year. And so that means that the demand for corks has increased enormously. So they're harvesting them younger and getting more of cork taint because the bacteria comes from the younger cork trees. So a good cork.
Well, that cork tank thing is rather complicated.
It's extremely complicated.
Because it's possible to have a quote cork tank without using corks. So, because it's a chemical and it occurs in wood. So we can have cork tank in a barrel on the back, okay, with Lily Vineyard for some time.
Beautiful color.
Beautiful color.
This is the reserve cab. Sorry.
Right.
Okay.
It's not a,
It's Seven Hills West Vineyard.
Well, it's beautiful.
I stand corrected.
So not many people do 100% of one varietal in the red wines because most people find that the best wine that they think they can make is with blends. Even all the wines that you see out there that say Cabernet, they only have to have 75% Cabernet juice in there. The others can be anything from Merlot, Cab Franc, Syrah, whatever they want. They don't have to tell you about it. So when someone has the cojones to say 100% Cab, they are saying that I have perfected this beautiful wine. And you know what? You've succeeded.
Perfected is a little strong.
Well, I'm a fan.
Well, I thought this initially was our Walla Walla Cab, which did not spend as much time on this. This is 36 months in French.
But look at that color. I mean, deep purple plum. And the thing is, there's no brick in it at all, even though it spent 3 years in barrel. I don't know how you do it. That is so beautiful. That is amazing. Lush fruit, but impeccably balanced. The finish doesn't fade away. It actually grows a little more pronounced.
Yeah.
The attack is beautiful, not too tannic at all. And we just opened this bottle. This is a gorgeous wine.
One thing that people might care to know about the price of a wine is what we try to do here is the amount of cost that we put in the wine in terms of new barrels, in terms of paying for premier fruit, in terms of careful management of the barrels, in terms of quality glass and corks.
And argon. I mean, this is an expensive wine to make.
I haven't seen argon in years in a winery.
Yeah, we do.
So,
Anyway, that cost is all reflected. So what we think is the wine in that bottle reflects the cost. In other words,
Well, that's the way it should be.
we haven't boosted it.
Yeah.
And you're getting that amount, we think you're getting that amount of quality wine in the bottle when you pay for it.
I think we're getting a bargain, although it's easy for me to spend someone else's $48.
That's right. So now,
All right. What shall we try next?
Condor.
Oh, Condor.
Okay.
I would love to taste this. Now, can't help but notice we're in Eagle Harbor with the names of different birds of prey and
That's right.
all of these.
That's right.
Tell me about that.
That's right. Well, we're just following a theme. That's about the size of it. I want to bring this up because I had some very instructive moments about a few months back. This is a blend, and my prejudice is to look for the flavors of a variety, okay? In other words, if I drink a Pinot Noir,
You want to taste like a Pinot Noir.
okay? But blending is extremely important, okay? It's an old way of doing things, and it's not in my métier, so to speak, but it's in hers. A while back...
Good team.
A while back we were doing blending trials, and Emily came up with something and I was terribly impressed with it. She's very, very good at blending, and we're very fortunate to find people at the winery.
Well, blending is an entire art in and of itself.
It is.
I mean, and it makes all the difference. Master blenders.
It absolutely is. And in this case, we want to make a heavy wine. It's 50% cab, 50% Merlot. Comes from the Columbia Valley, which means Red Mountain fruit and wall.
See, the thing is, if you'd labeled it just Red Mountain, it would have been more desirable in some people's eyes. But you are bypassing that to get the best fruit from two different AVAs and putting them together, even though you could only call it Columbia Valley.
Well, as I said to you a while back, we don't bullshit.
Exactly, I love it.
I love that. I
We-
love that.
We act what we try to do.
Nice nose.
And be as direct and honest with consumers as possible.
So, do you go across to the valley and see how they're progressing on the vineyards and what have you?
Right, the vineyard I mentioned earlier, Dwelly, we've been working with, I started working with that vineyard in 2007. So we've been working with that vineyard since it's not.
Almost 15 years.
Yeah.
And we have a certain block that we work from.
And that belongs to you, or you have first call on it.
That's right, yeah. So this is a heavier one. It's
It is, and the color doesn't reflect it.
No.
The color, the elegance. If I had to pick one word to quantify your wines, it's elegance. I mean, my goodness.
My tagline is always, my goal is elegant, balanced, approachable. And that's what I want to create.
And I have to say, she's doing a pretty good job.
Oh, she did it here.
Yeah.
Got a home run here. Yeah.
That is a 2015, so it's...
But yet there's no brick or brown in it.
No, well, it was 3 years before we bottled it, and so it's been out for a couple years, but we, well, that's because we take care
Oh,
of the
man.
wines.
Yeah.
That finish just keeps dancing in my
It shows
mouth.
The end product you guys are pouring out here.
This is
the one
This is my favorite wine that I've tasted of yours.
This is a blended wine too, and again, we can, I think, respect Emily's palate in putting this blend together because I'm extremely fond of Sangiovese. as a grape.
And it has so many different faces that it wears.
And so I don't mind drinking 100% Sangiovese. It's pretty acidic. I have a kind of Italian palate. But this wine is remarkable in that the amount of Sangiovese here is quite small. It's a wine we call our super Tuscan wine. So it's usually some varietal with Sangiovese. Okay?
I remember being in a vineyard in France many years ago when I was young, and the guy was showing me a Sangiovese. It was beautiful, and I looked over there, I thought I saw some Cabernet. And because I recognized it from California. I go, isn't that Cabernet over there? And he goes, damn foreign wine. They've been growing it 200 years and using it, and it's still a damn foreign wine.
Yeah.
But the Super Tuscan, this reminds me of Ornellaia, which is one of my favorite Super Tuscans because it has Merlot in it.
Right. So this is 40%, 47% Merlot, 39% Cabernet Sauvignon, and 14% Sangiovese. Right. And the grapes come from Red Mountain.
Yeah.
And Walla Walla.
What year is it?
It's
16.
15?
16.
16. The idea behind this one is it's a big wine.
It is. But it's so beautifully balanced.
When we bottle it, we have to let it sit for a bit to kind of calm down a bit. But the Sangiovese in this wine, in my opinion, is very evident, considering that it's only 17%.
That really surprised me when you told me that. It really did. Because it's evident in there. I mean, this is a beautiful...
All through the palate.
Oh.
All through the palate.
It just keeps hitting.
Yeah, from here
You like
all
the
way.
acid, don't you?
I do. I love acidity. I mean, when in its place, balanced with fruit. I love it.
Yeah.
And I love this wine. So I have never tasted one of your Syrahs.
Now you're going to. This is an 18, and it's an important wine in the winery because Emily babied it through. And she's very proud of it, and rightly so. The grapes come from Red Mountain, Kiowa Vineyard. Okay.
Kiowa Vineyards, man.
Kiowa.
That's what I meant, yeah.
Yeah, their Syrah is in an interesting location. It's got a little bit of elevation because Red Mountain kind of sweeps out.
Yeah.
And we have 2 rows, I think, there. I think it's 2 rows.
Nice.
Yeah. So this is a lovely Syrah, in my opinion. And
Oh, look at that.
And what's nice about it is that it's extremely well balanced, and as she said, it's very approachable, I think. I can smell it.
Oh, I got some, on the immediate nose, I got some, rum type flavor. I mean, like almost what they call wild boar sometimes.
Yeah, that's right. Isn't that nice? That's really nice. Right. It is indeed.
Oh, yeah. And you can tell it needs to open up still, but it's beautiful.
This is the part of our filming that I enjoy the most, is sitting back with both of you, tasting your craft, because it comes out as a good craft. You go to some other purveyors, and here it is, and this is so complex. All the wines we have today are so complex, and as you taste them, first time, second time, third time, the taste buds in my mouth are popping with different flavors.
Absolutely.
And then when you trickle a little bit down your throat, it's even different.
This one's a reserve Merlot, so 100% Merlot. And people will come into the tasting room and they'll say, I don't like Merlot.
I see that a lot out in the field.
I said, try it.
Well, that's because...
Or we say, we'll pour you some wines, and you tell us what you think, and we'll slip this one in. And this is one that really benefits from some air, but We don't have to do that. You can use it later. Because this is 100% Aria Vineyard, which is Hugh's vineyard. So I purchased the winery from Hugh, and Hugh purchased a vineyard. And we were lucky enough to get this Merlot fruit from that vineyard for 4 years, I think we have, 4 vintages.
Well done.
Well done.
And it's delicious. This was the first wine that we used what we call a double fermentation on. We fermented it not only with our Saccharomyces yeast, but we started it with a non-Saccharomyces yeast. So,
Really?
yeah, which is a Tulospora de Brecci, as a way to mimic more closely some of the natural fermentation flavors that you get. So
What year is this?
This is a 2016.
And again, all these small things that we've been noticing and talking about as we've toured your winery, they all come together, like Jeff says, in this final product, and it is just incredibly good. You do a very good job. Oh my. See, a number of people have said that one of the best grapes that we grow is Merlot. And Merlot from Washington is different from any place else I've ever had it.
Absolutely.
It's a noble grape. I mean, by itself, it doesn't need anything.
This should have some good acidity on it.
Yeah, again, I love acidity in balance, but it's impeccably balanced too. I love this. And 2 fermentations. Well, that's a nuance you don't find anyplace else.
Well, we've started doing it with most varietals now, so we'll see. We're going to be coming up with some different flavors coming out.
What made you decide to go 2 different fermentations?
Well, we initially tried it with one wine once.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know the effect. And so we tried it with one wine and we were impressed with what happened. Okay. So we inoculate initially with this version of the wine yeast and watch it pretty carefully because it's unable to complete.
Right.
Once the alcohol starts to build, it'll kill the yeast. So we watch it with the temperature, and it's usually about 72 hours, sometimes more, sometimes less. And we watch it, and once that fermentation starts to decrease, then we inoculate it with the Saccharomyces yeast.
That can take a higher alcohol content.
With the wine yeast.
But that is something that I can't remember hearing of anyone else doing. But I know these lower alcohol yeasts, they're used in lower alcohol wines in some parts of Europe, bring out unique flavors. Yeah. And I just love this marriage of the two. Yeah. This works well.
And I can tell you that it's made the wines more complicated. And
this is from Red Mountain, Kiona Vineyard. This is one of the first rows of grapes they planted there when John Williams was still a young man, which is quite a long time ago.
1978.
I always forget when it was.
I think it was 78.
78.
Yeah.
So in California, it has to be 25 years old to call it an old vine. This is 43 years old.
Right.
And I'm telling you, the color is just stunning.
We often get 8 rows there, and what's interesting, this Cabernet, in my opinion, is unique in its flavor. Mm-hmm. I'm familiar, they make Cabernet from the same area, from the same vines, Kiona does, and I've tasted that a number of times. I think they call it old vine. It's the same kind of thing. It's very, very interesting. It's a very interesting Cabernet, I think.
From the color, I expected this to be bigger, but it's elegant and very well balanced. Again, just like all your wines, it's beautiful. And the color, my goodness.
Well, one of the myths, in my opinion, actually it can be verified, is that Cabernet is a heavy grape with a very dark color. In fact, it's not. It's heavier and darker than many. On a scale of 1 to 10, it falls in about 6 to 7. But there are other grapes that are far darker and richer than that. Petit Syrah is one, for example. Petit Verdot is another. Syrah can be quite a bit darker as well.
Maybe it's just the way they identify it, thinking that this is what Americans want.
I don't know why.
I think that the wine industry has changed so much in the last 10 to 15 years, where the wines are produced to be so approachable now compared to when I first got drinking wine.
Yes.
You know, and like I was discussing with Hugh earlier, my favorite wine I can't find, and he says there's a vineyard in Washington State, and I want to find it. There's Alicante Boucher.
Okay.
Because that's a wine that you have to lay down 20 to 25 years before you can approach it. The guy that I bought it from used to say, this is the wine that you buy when your daughter's born and you serve at her wedding.
Like a Porto.
Yeah.
The fruit on this is so beautiful, though, and it just goes on and on.
Yeah.
I mean, this has got a beautiful long finish. What were you going to say?
Lovely balance to it, I think, between oak, acid, and fruit. Lovely balance. Yeah.
Well, just another one, another winner in my eyes.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I'm sorry we didn't get through the whole lineup. We have about 17 or 18 reds, so, but,
I guess that means we'll just have to come
you'll have to
back.
come back.
Yeah, we'll do another filming.
Yeah.
And you're very welcome to come back.
Anytime.
Thank you.
We appreciate that.
We love your wines, and you guys, well, I guess we love you too. Thank you.
Well, you guys rock. Yeah, you guys
We
rock.
appreciate it.
Yeah, we do.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Especially
much.
being a deadhead.
Exactly. That's right.
Thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Cheers.
Cheers.